Today, I'm going to be diving deep into the insane, crazy world of 1980s horror. Before I begin, I wanted to clarify one thing. Instead of ranking these movies, based on enjoyment or which one of them are my favorites, instead, I'll be ranking them on how crazy the concept is, and then subsequently how crazy that execution was. With all of that said, in the immortal words of Michael Keaton, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Starting off with number 10, we have Angel Heart from 1987. Private investigator Harry Angel is hired to find the mysteriously disappeared Johnny Favorite, which leads him on a dark path lined with sinister murders. Separating it out from the others on this list, Angel Heart is actually a period piece, like a neo-noir set in the 1950s, characterized visually by its hot setting that just radiates off the screen. You can feel the heat, as well as some, pretty typical trappings of that detective noir genre. What makes this movie crazy? First, Angel Heart puts to screen some horribly gruesome murders in explicit detail, which quickly separate it from the normal noir genre. Second, there is a sex scene in this film which is to date one of the most insane sequences I've seen of its kind. And finally, the twist revealed at the end, coinciding with the implications of that twist. Wow. But what holds this movie back, from being higher up on this list is, I'll be honest, the twist, while incredible as it is, personally, I don't know, I saw it coming. I felt like it was a little obvious for me, so it took a bit of an impact away from the story, but this is still an insane movie. Number 9 is going to be Reanimator from 1985. A loose H.P. Lovecraft adaptation about Herbert West, an egotistical medical student who has invented a reagent to reanimate deceased bodies, and the subsequent chaotic events that carry on from this discovery. Right off the bat, what makes it crazy? It begins with a mix of, black comedy and body horror. Reanimator, though, it descends deeper and darker into this premise of breaking the rules of life and death, while also telling a story of the obsessive rivalry over inventions. What happens, though, is as we arrive into that final act, the comedy is all but dropped, and it's replaced with stomach-turning depictions of assault, frankly, and violence, which just leaves you squirming and wondering if the film is going too far. It almost does, before ending in blood-soaked carnage wrapped in tragic despair. Number 8 is going to be The Beyond from 1981. The second film in Lucio Fulci's Gates of Hell trilogy, The Beyond, theoretically tells the tale of a woman inheriting a hotel and uncovering the dark secrets which lay in its foundations. I say theoretically because let's just jump right into what makes this movie crazy. We begin with a black and white sequence that devolves into black magic, prophecies of the end of the world, and a brutal murder. Flashing forward then, decades, we just descend even further into madness as the murders begin again. There's ghosts and hordes of undead zombie-like corpses that are just running rampant. And then a gateway of hell is truly uncovered. Yeah. Lucio Fulci, though, is one of my favorite Italian filmmakers because, honestly, of how crazy his films are. He defies more common methods of storytelling, at the time, back in the 80s, and today. Instead, focusing on atmosphere and mood, where, honestly, you can't predict what's going to happen next. No, I mean, really, watch The Beyond, and then I ask you, what happened there? Number 7 is going to be From Beyond from 1986. Being more typical of the Lovecraftian popular meaning, From Beyond explores a radical scientist driving his mind completely insane and his body past the point of human biology. The second H.P. Lovecraft adaptation on this list, this film seemingly begins as an excuse for director Stuart Gordon to team up with stars Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton from Reanimator, coming only 1 year after that film released. Though we see quickly that this will not be a retread of past territory. Combs, instead of that egotistical Herbert West, plays a much more reserved, even subservient character, as Crampton, also playing against type as, a helpless victim, delivers one of her best performances as a doctor, willing to do anything for her career. What makes From Beyond crazy is basically two dimensions begin to intertwine as the film goes on, causing our protagonist's sanity to literally be questioned as the invading dimension looks to take over and replace ours. And the ending, it's this Lovecraftian body horror extravaganza where nobody is left untouched. Number 6 is going to be Videodrome from 1983. A CEO for a small television station that specializes in risky content stumbles upon the broadcast of snuff films and is thrust deep into a conspiracy where his own perception of reality becomes confused. So I actually just mentioned this movie in my last video talking all about David Cronenberg. Highly recommend that one. So I'll just keep my thoughts here brief. Something I will dive deeper into here that I didn't get into in that video was how, much like our CEO protagonist, we as the audience really question what is real, what is hallucination, what is dream, which results in this story where you don't know if we're actually following the events of the story or if simply we're watching the delusions of a man driven past the brink. Last thing I'll say about Videodrome is simply this: long live the new flesh.
Long live the new flesh.
Number 5 is going to be Tenebrae from 1982. An American author travels to Rome on a book tour and quickly gets caught up in the search for a serial killer inspired by his novel. One of his last great movies, Dario Argento's Genesis, for this film was inspired by his personal experiences with a stalker, and also was a way of commenting and reacting to the criticism of his previous work, most namely the ways in which women are murdered in his films. So what makes Tenebrae crazy? While at first containing many typical features of a giallo movie, done to perfection, I might add. There's a reason I have a physical copy of this movie. It's fantastic. What makes this film worthy of this list, though, is its final act and closing moments. I really don't want to spoil anything because I highly recommended this film, but the amount of twists combined with how gory and blood-soaked everything is, it's instantly memorable, insane, and honestly incredible. Number 4 is going to be The House by the Cemetery from 1981. The final film in Fulci's Gates of Hell trilogy. Where do I even start with this movie? More than any of his prior entries into the trilogy, The House by the Cemetery is a movie you don't really need to worry about spoilers for. This movie is about experiencing it firsthand. The imagery, the atmosphere, all of it. Roughly speaking, it tells the tale of murders taking place in the titled house by a mostly undead killer. Yes, I said mostly. It's hard to describe. Now, what that premise leaves out is what makes this movie crazy. Okay, here we go. We've got a several minutes long bat attack that refuses to end. The most awkward and unnatural chase sequences you will ever see. Whole subplots and lines of dialogue that seem to allude to more that are never resolved. And finally, we have Bob. Bob. Now, Bob is the child at the center of the film, but his lines are ridiculously dubbed, causing an experience reminiscent to nails on a chalkboard. Finally, if that doesn't describe the craziness of this movie, the ending is something else. Similar to The Beyond, in a way as our surviving character, finds another gateway to hell. This one is even more nonsensical and head-scratching than The Beyond was. So good luck. Number 3 is going to be Life Force from 1985. A trio of alien humanoids are brought to Earth after being discovered in suspended animation. Directed by Tobe Hooper, the making of this movie is infamous for being a $25 million production. Now, for context, that is more than some 80s top-grossing hits you'll recognize, such as E.T., Back to the Future, and Top Gun. While it didn't share the box office success of those films, you can see every bit of budget on the screen. It's actually a novel adaptation of Colin Wilson's The Space Vampires. And yeah, that just you can see it right there. That just kind of gives away the plot immediately, so you can see why they changed the film title to Life Force. But yeah, Life Force is a vampire movie, but one of the most insane sci-fi versions ever put to screen. So what makes this movie crazy? Well, first off, our lead vampire, played by French actress Mathilde May, is naked. Completely just butt-ass naked for the majority of her performance, and the camera does not hide anything. From there, we are constantly escalating as by draining the life force of her victims, they return as undead drones, hungry for more life force, which turns this movie into an infection film as we watch society collapse. Honestly, it's impressive how quickly this movie turns in from scientific investigation / manhunt for our escaped alien vampire into all of London crumbling into this apocalyptic hellhole with its citizens literally tearing each other apart. Coming in at number 2 is going to be Society from 1989. A teenager living in Beverly Hills begins to suspect his wealthy parents are hiding a gruesome secret. Now, I'll be honest. From that premise, you could easily assume this to be a very generic film about murder or criminal activity, but Society, it's not that. And I'll say this up front. For anyone wanting to remain unspoiled, I advise you to go watch Society and then come back, because this movie is impossible to discuss without being spoilerific. Before you go check it out though, be warned, it is not for the faint of heart or anyone with an easily upset stomach. Okay, for those that have stuck around or are coming back, or for you guys that really don't care about spoilers, let's chat. First off, WTF. With out of the way, let's talk about the reveal of the secret in the film's infamous final act. So, our protagonist's parents, along with the whole of the social elite in the town, if not from further abroad, are revealed to be a shape-shifting species that literally feeds on the lower class. Like, the rich are literally eating the poor. But not in the conventional eating sense, which is bad enough. Oh, no. This movie goes full body horror as the elite melt and blend and morph into each other as they consume the skin, organs, and flesh of their victim in gooey, slimy, explicit detail. It puts true meaning to the term body horror that I don't think I need to describe anymore what makes this film crazy and why it's my number 2 on this list. Also, I'll be honest, don't have the strongest stomach myself, so let's move on from this truly insane film. Number 1, guys, and it is going to be Possession from 1981. A couple's relationship deteriorates in the shadow of Cold War era West Germany. Okay, when I came up with the idea for this list, Possession was not only the film that sparked the idea, but instantly became the number 1 spot, with every other movie I've discussed finding a place below it. So what makes this movie crazy and worthy of that lofty position? Well, let me run through some of the criteria I have discussed with previous movies. Insane sex scenes? Check. Lovecraftian monsters? Check. A descent into madness? Check. Escalation as things keep getting bigger and more insane? Check. Nonsensical plot and story elements that are dropped or never explained? Check. Possession contains all of it and more in a true roller coaster of a film. The co-writer and director of the film, Andrzej Zolowski, wrote this movie during a bad divorce, and in so many ways it's reflected on screen. On that, a great description, and shout out to Daniel from the Cobwebs channel, a great description he gave for this film was that as nonsensical as it is, the film reflects perfectly how it feels to go through the end of a relationship. You know, emotions are heightened, terrible things are said and done. Not everything makes sense or is true. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is a discussion on the performances of our leads, Sam Neill and Isabelle Adjani. Criticism has been levied at them for being too theatrical or outlandish, but to that, I would refer to my comments about the film, you know, capturing that feeling of a breakup rather than a normal portrayal. For a specific comment though, Adjani's performance in that infamous subway scene is not only one of the best and insane performances I have ever seen, it really perfectly sums up in many ways the feeling of the overall film and truly encapsulates its madness perfectly. All of that makes this my most insane movie from the 1980s. And there we go. Wow, that was a lot. I think I need a shower and a nap. Maybe both. But let me know, what do you guys think about this list? I know there's a lot of 80s gems I left out, some of my favorites, but I wanted to focus on those movies that I just thought were the craziest, most insane films I've seen from that decade. So these just stood out as my 10, crazy choices. But yeah, feel free to tell me, yours in the comments below. What are some of your crazy picks for 1980s horror? But until next time, what's your favorite scary movie?